In order to create that business plan, you're going to need to know about your market supply and demand of what you are planning to produce and what you're planning to sell. Does the demand, that is the customer's ability to buy and desire to buy from you, or the need for your product or service, exceed the existing supply? Can you supply your product or service at a competitive price, and in doing that, can you make a profit? I want you to ask yourself, if you are considering changes in your farm or expansions, why will customers buy from you? The friendly greeting might not be enough. Figure out what will be enough. What will make customers maybe go the extra mile or pay a little bit more or pick your booth out of somebody else's farm booth. What will get them to buy from you rather than your competition, and explain that in your plan. Your value proposition, we call that. Production is a big deal. When I was in college, though, I took the horse production class, and it's going to be tough to find a horse that's going to produce a profit. So it's possible if you're in a pretty specialty area, but I don't make enough money to have horses. That's what I learned there. I tell you what, dry jokes on a webinar are tough. They're tough enough live, but I have to laugh at myself. So your farm plan is a test of your knowledge of operations, marketing, financials. That's kind of how I look at it. Although testing, I work for a college, and that's pretty common around here, but a lot of people don't want to see it that way. Your lender might not even read your plan, but if he does, you want it to be good. And you need that plan anyway for yourself and for your decision-making process. Again, I'm a numbers person. A plan without numbers isn't going to mean much to me. Some of those numbers are going to be your prices, your break-even point. It is crucial for managing cash. Shows how and when you will become profitable. There is some good information in the book about business planning, and then we have a workbook, we call it, called The Plan. It's available at our website from this link here, and I recommend people take a notebook at home to put their plan in after they've printed it out from their computer, and then include all that documentation and additional information, things like your resume, your LLC or a copy of it, maybe your catalog of products. And that workbook does have some samples, it has explanations, and it has questions that you might want to answer in your plan. And then I go back to feasibility. Will enough customers buy enough of your products or services? Services being things like if you're doing custom harvesting or hay baling, something like that, at prices that will make your business enough money to justify your time and investment. So we're talking here about your return on your investment. That's also abbreviated ROI, which is your profit divided by your equity. So what's normal is going to vary by the level of risk of the investment, and again, farming is considered to be pretty high risk. And if your return on your investment is, let's say, under 10%, you might want to consider where else you might be able to invest your money to get a good return. and your time. Your time is part of your investment also, and what is reasonable. And it's one of the reasons it can be difficult to raise capital for these kinds of investments. On this slide, I want to underline the part that says more complexity or capital requires more planning. If you're talking about being at a farmer's market for a month, that might not require the kind of planning that is going to be required if you are talking about going from 40 head of cattle to 100 head of cattle. More capital, more complexity, again, more planning. And don't hesitate to ask for advice. I tell you, some of our clients are some of the most educated people out there. People, engineers involved in new technologies around energy, doctors, specialists. They aren't afraid to ask for advice because they know that it's of value. And I get surprised at people who don't want to ask their accountant for advice. Hopefully you're working with a certified public accountant. That means that they've passed some tests that some of the others haven't passed and have an education level, and hopefully the experience needed to be a good advisor. Another resource that I want to share with you is on the internet at score.gov, and it is a cash flow projection template that is an excellent tool for planning cash flow. And the example is Ann's Nursery, so a little bit ag-related, and there's some good explanations and things in there. On the other hand, if you don't understand it, get advice on using it, because you don't want to mislead yourself. So your ability to learn faster than your competition is your only sustainable competitive advantage, according to this business executive. And I like to tell people the traits of successful entrepreneurs: guts, brains, and capital. So guts, being able to withstand that risk, the ups and downs of farming. The brains, becoming as knowledgeable as you can about what you can related to your farm. And capital, that's the equipment, land, your education is an investment, and the cash needed to make it go. Any questions?
We have one question that is coming from Janice, and what Janice is asking is, if you haven't done record keeping, so this is really relating to last week's presentation and how to get started. So she says, let's say we haven't been doing a very good job with our financial record keeping up until now. So now what? What's the best way to start when you've been doing this for some time and have a confusion in your records? So essentially, where should she start today?
Okay, start as of January 1st, 2014, and make a list of what you own. And Ken's going to go into a little bit more detail about the balance sheet, but listing what you own, starting with the cash that was in your bank account on January 1st, that point in time, what you owned on that date, and you work down in your real estate. Those long-term assets are typically the last things on the list, and you total that up. That's your list of assets. And then what you owed. So not your regular monthly bills that you pay on time all the time, but your car loan, your real estate loan, your student loans, if you're behind on any bills, what you owed at that point in time. And then the difference between those two is going to be your investment, your equity in the business. And then I recommend, and I talked about the chart of accounts. So that's the beginning of your chart of accounts. And then you list the kinds of income that you want to track in as much detail as you want to track it, and your expenses. And that totals up that total chart of accounts. And then I recommend and I use an inbox myself. I work for a company where they used a file. So any unpaid bills that needed to be paid went in that inbox or that unpaid bills file. And then I created a series of files alphabetically by those, and we're going to call them vendors. So that's the power company, that's the farm store, that might be where you get your fuel. Those are all vendors if you have accounts with them, or if you make purchases from them for the farm. And so then you alphabetize those, and each year, January 1st, you start with a new set of those alphabetized vendor files. And that's where you keep all of those receipts from, where you're keeping those. And then as you gather this information, you can use a spreadsheet, or you can use, and I think of a spreadsheet being like a check register or an expanded check register with that extra page, so you can categorize things. So maybe all the utilities go under one category. And or a program like QuickBooks. And QuickBooks has a lot of online resources. In fact, I could probably share, I don't have it in front of me right now, but at a later time I can share a resource where they have all these videos and quick training things about learning programs like QuickBooks. And then the one that I gave just a few minutes ago is another resource on the called myownbusiness.org. It's all little free information about topics like record keeping. Or work with an accountant to help you with things like that chart of accounts and the filing system. You're also going to want to have files for some of those things that go beyond that annual year, such as if you buy a vehicle, you're going to have a file for that particular vehicle or tractor, or set of cows that you bought from Neighbor B and their brand inspections and those kind of things. I hope that answers the question. I can go on for longer if you want me to.
I think that's great, Barbara. And if anyone that's on tonight has any other questions, we can catch those in our next question and answer period. But thank you. I think that really laid out a good way to start. And given that we're so close to January, something that really feels possible.